has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast, here on a Tuesday, hour number 3. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us. Of course, every Tuesday and Wednesday, you get the extended version of the very popular SportsGrid radio show, Carver and Lisi, which airs weeknights at 8 p.m. East. That, of course, is with myself and Joe, the encyclopedia of NFL rules. So it's great to have Joe with us, of course, here. Hi, Joe. How are you this hour? Look at Joe. He's all fired up.
I am. You know, let's just change the game of football. You know, I mean, it's absolutely gutless and
I know it's bothering you a lot, which is why I keep needling you about it, because I know how much it does bother you, as much as you don't want to let that off.
I tell you what, NFL films might not be in existence anymore without the you know, back in the day, the Crunch Course and, you know, Monsters of the Midway and all those videos that they put out back in the day. Thankfully, they built the bankroll. Yeah, they built the bankroll. Yeah, from the 70s straight through the mid-2000s. And then after that, they fell off a cliff.
They did fall off a cliff after that, Joe. You're absolutely right. I do have for you the rest of the spreads for these Sweet 16 games. Of course, we did the Thursday games earlier in the show. I did want to finish off the Friday games with you and let you know that we have some NIT games tonight as a trip to the Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indiana. No more Garden, no more Madison Square Garden for the Final Four of the NIT. They go to where Butler plays at the Hinkle.
Yeah, they killed that
Fieldhouse. They certainly did. We welcome in all of our radio affiliates. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver High, Joe Lisi in for Scotty. SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM 159. Sports Byline. Great to have everybody with us. Okay, Joe, Friday night, NCAA tournament. Here's what we have. First in Dallas, NC State and Marquette will get things going. Marquette minus 6.5, 150.5. You, of course, have been very high on Tyler Kolek and this Marquette team, Joe.
Yeah, and they stepped up against Colorado, right? I mean, they had a first half lead. They relinquished that in the second half. It was 64 up, and then all of a sudden Marquette decided to pull away yet again. I like the way they're playing. They're built, I think, for the Sweet 16, and more importantly, the Final Four. Did pick them to get there. They're my pick to win it all, Carver, at 31-1. So we'll see how they play against Burns and NC State. I just think NC State, this is a bad matchup for them. I think Marquette is more physical, especially under the boards, even with Burns. I think Marquette does win and cover this number.
The night game in Dallas is going to be Duke against Houston. So Houston, of course, who's the 1 seed there in the South, taking on Duke, who beat Vermont and James Madison to get themselves here. This is now 3.5, and 134.5 is the total. Go ahead, Joe. I'll let you try to sell Duke first before I give the other side.
Listen, if McCain comes out and hits his first 5 3-pointers the way he did against James Madison, they can win and cover this number. And I think this is a bad matchup for Houston. I know they're better defensively. They can bang under the boards. They're more sizzle and you know, they're bigger and physical. But I'll take Duke. I think this is a bad matchup. I think Duke can run in transition. I think they're the better perimeter shooting team. And I'm going to ride the freshman McCain. Give me the slight upset. Give me the Duke Blue Devils plus the points and on the money line. I don't believe in Houston.
I got to tell you, Joe, I'm very surprised at you because you usually sidestep landmines like this. You usually never get yourself involved in spots like this. The Duke Blue Devils, who everyone loves to jump on the train with their big wins over Vermont and James Madison this past weekend. Suddenly Duke, not a vintage Duke team this year, Joe. So suddenly Duke is going to go, and you talked about McCain going out and hitting threes. This guy, if you think that Houston is going to let Duke get the wide open looks that they had against James Madison, you're nuts, Joe. There's two things here also.
Yeah,
I think you're getting a little bit of a discount here on Houston because it's Duke. And Duke's one of those teams, Duke, Notre Dame, the Cowboys, the Yankees.
Yeah.
You know, you get taxes on those teams.
Yeah, I know.
Probably should be 5.5, maybe even 6.5.
All right,
what's
hero.
the difference between these two? You're getting a discount.
Okay.
Houston just had a scare on Sunday night against Texas A&M.
Say no shot.
I think Houston is going to destroy Duke on Friday night. In fact, Joe,
best bet.
I'll alter
and
as
Duke.
high as you want. I'll alter to 14.5 if you want on the alt line.
Really?
I think they're going to do 15-plus point win. They are going to clean Duke out on Friday night. That's what I think they're going to do.
I'm so happy you said that. Now I might lock it in immediately, number one. Number two, I'll tell you this.
Them out.
What's the stat that you told me last night? Duke is 0-5 since 2003. Yeah, since 94.
Duke,
circulated.
Duke has
Let's
not
get it out
beaten.
there. Yeah.
Duke has not beaten a team seeded higher than them since 1994.
Right.
That was the
it's
last
only
time
five
they beat
times.
a team.
Right. Okay. So in 30 years, it's only 5 times. Right.
Yes,
all right.
and they lost all five.
Let's regurgitate that with all the mushes out there. That's perfect. I'm so happy. You like it? I love it. Duke, outright. I told you this Houston team potentially could be frauds because they might have punched themselves out in the regular season in the Big 12. They were the best team and the dominant team. They didn't win the tourney. They lost out to Iowa State. Now they have to kick it up a notch, and they almost lost to Texas A&M, who's an absolute average team. Texas A&M is not great.
I am stunned at you.
Okay? Yep. There you go. I said it. Duke.
This is outside of your playbook, Joe. You backing the public darling like Duke, I'm very surprised.
No, it's not a public darling. Houston's the public darling.
They're a team that everybody runs to Duke.
Harper,
everybody loves Duke.
I got news for you. You know what? Houston is becoming the public team. Everybody's rocking on the Houston team. You know who was on Houston? I was on Houston. You know when I was on them? When they beat up Syracuse and Buddy Boeheim, and they banged them around a couple of years ago. That's when I was on Houston. I put them on the map, and now I'm jumping off.
They are going to destroy Duke on Friday night. Destroy
I love
them.
This. Best bet, Bama and Duke.
That will be,
Bama
in
and
fact,
Duke.
Joe, that will be the most unwatchable second half of any game on Thursday and Friday. The Houston Duke game. They are going to destroy them.
You really like them that much? You really like Houston them that much? Great.
The two games, quickly. Let's get this out of the way. We'll do more tonight, and of course tomorrow I'll give you these again. I think the 4 teams, Joe, in Detroit, it's almost like a Final Four-esque type of region. Gonzaga, Purdue, Tennessee, Creighton. I think these are 2 great matchups. I would love to go after Purdue. I have that Gonzaga ticket. You're on Gonzaga as well. I have the Creighton ticket. Purdue looks a little different to me, Joe. I'm not going to lie. They got a little different look in their eye this year.
That's okay. Wait, the Sweet 16, Painter becomes Johnny Skidmarks.
Okay.
Mark Few is not going to be too big for the moment. Johnny Skidmarks, here we come. Gonzaga, outright.
We're back coast to coast right after this.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid. SDSU minus 7.5, and then Washington State will take on Drake in the 7-10. Wazoo, 1.5 favorite. So we got two close ones here in terms of the spread.
State was one of the top 30 teams in the net rankings, so I think that Drake might be a little motivated to prove that, hey, our conference should have had two teams in this tournament. Indiana State didn't make it, but we'll represent pretty well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back from coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us every week. It's great to have our sports, business, and legal insider, Rick Horrow, with us. He'll, of course, also be with me and Joe tonight on Carver and Lisa. He joins us weekly as well. But let's get it going here, Rick. It's great to see you as always here. You've been with Scotty the last few Mondays, so it's nice to see you again on a Tuesday. I want to start with Memphis because you were there for the first and second round games Friday and Sunday. That, of course, was the Houston, Baylor, Clemson, and Texas A&M pod that you had there. Did you enjoy the barbecue?
Yeah, the barbecue was great. And then metaphorically, I enjoyed the barbecuing of those four losers on Friday night or Friday morning or Friday afternoon. Those were four of the worst halves you could possibly imagine. But for the city of Memphis, by the way, about $80 million of economic impact. They're in the middle of a controversy over how much money to spend on a renovated FedEx Forum for the Grizzlies. I walked through the building. I've been there before. It looks great. It's exactly the kind of regional you ought to have in a city where basketball dominates, because the NBA team does. Oklahoma City reminds me of it as well. And so does Indy. And so it's college atmosphere. All of those guys, even Longwood, felt like they were in the games until the tip. And then you never saw Saturday and Sunday so many people clearing out of town. It was like Elvis. He left the building. They left the building.
Yeah, but at least as bad as the games were on Friday, they did have one of the two really good games over the weekend. Yeah. The weekend was tough everywhere, I thought, on Saturday and Sunday, aside from the latest games of the day, which was Creighton and Oregon late on Saturday, and then Houston and Texas A&M late on Sunday. It's unfortunate, Rick, and look, they changed this schedule a while ago when they went to having it on all four networks, and now they could spread these things out throughout the day. I'm sure it doesn't hurt them that they were the latest games were the best ones, because people watch anyway, right?
Well, people watch anyway, and there is a value judgment they always make. You know, Duke has been, I know your discussion with Lisi at the back end of this, they are America's darling. I understand, and I really can't play this one straight because my daughter went there and Coach K wrote the forward and all that. But they are America's team, and no one denies it. And by the way, who cares? Nobody really cares. But I have Duke against North Carolina in my brackets. That's stupid. But I decided to do it anyway. Yeah, again, every year. Every one of those years it's going to hit. I also had Florida Atlantic, so that's gone, way gone. But listen, the bottom line is they cater to Duke. They cater to North Carolina. And you're right. Look at the non-Cinderellas this year. I guess you can call NC State a Cinderella, right, because they're ranked 11th. But they have a pedigree. It's not as if they're coming out of left field. And this year is not the year of the upsets. Maybe early, Yale early. But it's not the year of the upsets late. It's chalk late.
Yeah, and you don't have, obviously, now left a team like a George Mason, of ECU, right. Loyola of Chicago, one of these great. But I think one thing when you don't have those upsets in the second round, Rick, is you have great games on the Thursday and Friday night for the Sweet 16, which we clearly have here in Boston, Detroit, Dallas, and Los Angeles. They're going to have themselves a couple of really big ones, that's for sure. We'll discuss more with that tonight on the radio. I want to get to the Ohtani stuff, Rick, because that's clearly the number one story here, especially in your realm of what we do on a weekly basis. He made the statement yesterday, and that's what it was, Rick. It wasn't really a press conference because nobody was allowed to ask any questions. Tell me your thoughts on this, because I actually was saying earlier, I feel like the real story, and nobody knows what the real story is, I feel the real story is the first one that the interpreter told, in that he had a problem. Ohtani helped him out because he's his friend and tried to get him out of it. And Ohtani's people were like, yeah, that's against the law. We're not going to say that you did that. I feel like that's really the root of the story here.
Well, I think it's probably the root of the story. But again, as a lawyer, I'm not going to jump to that. You as a pundit can jump to that. And we don't have any information on it. The bottom line is the investigation started. Nobody's going to stand in the way of the investigation. I assume it's an FBI investigation, not just Dodgers and not just Major League Baseball. And this is kind of like the old Nixon days. What did he know? When did he know it? And that's going to drive some of this. The language barrier works against the investigation because there might have been a nuance there, and Ohtani and the interpreter might have known. And nobody knows whether the interpreter is going to fall on the economic sword for Ohtani and maybe, say this as the story, you'll get paid later. That's the kind of thing that you speculate on. I don't want to even begin to speculate until we have more facts, other than this will force one of the biggest decisions that Rob Manfred has ever made if there is something other than a clean slate.
You're 100% right about facts, Rick, because we don't have any of them so far. And all that anyone can do is make speculations. And some of the ones that people make, as with pretty much everything nowadays, are extremely wild and I think pretty far-fetched. But at the end of the day, you talk about the economic sword for the interpreter. There's like a cell involved with that probably, too, that he'd have to fall into, along with the economic sword. So
that's a very good point. Yeah,
I'm not so sure how quick he's going to be to possibly want to fall into that. But a fascinating story moving forward, that's for sure. Women's tournament. Me and Scotty were talking about this yesterday. Scotty was very hot about this. And I think the women's tournament now, Rick, has reached a level of popularity and a level of ratings where they need to do away with the first and second round games on the home school's floor. It is a major advantage for all these teams. You saw it yesterday with Iowa. You saw it yesterday, USC, all these teams playing at home. UConn played at home. I get why they did it 20 years ago, Rick. Do you think the game's grown enough now where they can start doing neutral sites like the men do for the first and second round?
Absolutely. What, Ferrall doesn't agree with you?
No, me and him are on the same page. They should not be playing. They should not be playing these games. He was screaming about it because he was watching Tennessee playing at NC State. Thought Tennessee on a neutral floor maybe would have had a chance, but it was just such a tough spot they were in playing in Raleigh. And then he went on about Indiana had a home game last night, etc. Me and him agreed. They should be on neutral sites now.
And frankly, you should get credit not just because he yells louder like he always does and usurps your ability to be more credible. Hang in there. You occasionally make more and more important points. This is one of those points. And so I think it's a bigger issue not only than just home and home first two rounds. It is WNBA thinking about a new independent television contract, not just the NBA's coattails. Indiana Fever doubling their season ticket request because Caitlin inevitably will be theirs as the number one pick. The whole post-Caitlin Clark basketball domination has so changed the landscape that all of these issues need to be fundamentally reviewed, and that's just one of them.
Let's slide one more in, Rick, and then we'll do the rest tonight on the radio. The G League Ignite, of course, Adam Silver's baby, finished. He had to shut that down.
Yeah. But, well, what gave you the hint? What, that they're 2-98 and the fact that they have no players? And the reason why, as we know, is that the NIL has put this in an impossible situation. Why would somebody be drafted and then go to the G League if they can stay in college, spend another year, make a boatload of money on NIL, and then move forward with it? So I think that's going to be a signal all across the G League, another unintended consequence of NIL.
Rick, tremendous job as always. We will see you tonight or hear you tonight on Carver and Lisi just at 8:25 p.m. East, where we will go through more of your list and you can tell me how the Dolphins are going to get Odell Beckham Jr., and that's going to make them beat the Bills next year. Rick Harlow.
And whenever it's you or Ferrall, hang on, you're smarter than he is.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the review that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
SDSU -7.5, and then Washington State will take on Drake in the 7-10. Wazoo 1.5 favorite. So we got two close ones here in terms of the spread.
State was one of the top 30 teams in the net rankings, so I think that Drake might be a little motivated to prove that, hey, our conference should have had two teams in this tournament. Indiana State didn't make it, but we'll represent pretty well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us. Great to have Adam Kaplan with us today, of course, usually Mondays, Tuesdays this week. So I'm happy to have him, especially from Orlando, where the NFL owners' meetings are this week. Of course, we've heard from all the coaches, the GMs, owners, everybody's down there, and lots of newsy items. So, Adam, it is good to see you from beautiful Orlando. And I think the first thing, Adam, we got to go to is, of course, rule changes. And there's been several of them that have come down here in the past 2 days with the owners voting on them. And I think the biggest one is the change to the kickoff, the hybrid style kickoff that we've seen used in the XFL the past couple of years. Why don't you give everybody the details on that?
Yeah, so Mike, this is a massive change. And look, the NFL looked at it in a variety of ways. Number one, the kickoff rate and return rate, so low. Only 22% of the kicks were returned last season. That is historic. That's just too low. And plus, player safety, would have combined the two. So that's what they've done here. So as I understand it, talking to league officials, so they started really talking about this seriously. They've been doing a study for 3 years, but just getting the owners on board and getting 32 teams to go through this. So Sunday, when they were really talking about it heavy, they knew it was going to take 3 days. Typically, these things can get done in a day, maybe a couple hours, but not so. But over the 3 days, and the meetings actually concluded earlier today, Mike, somehow, over the course of 3 days, 72 hours, the proposal to change up, go to the XFL, or actually it's now called the USF, the former USFL, it's now called the UFL, to go with that style of kick, past 29-3. That is a landslide. That surprised me. I didn't think it would be that wide. I thought it'd be kind of close, but some of the naysayers were kind of changed their mind because they got a better explanation. Two special teams coaches, Jim Fossil's son, Bones Fossil, who's the special teams coach for the Cowboys, and Darren Rizzi, who's the special teams for the Saints. Those guys kind of led the charge from the coaching standpoint and obviously the competition committee. And what it is really, Mike, is that no longer could the kickoff team get that running start. They start they start the 40 of the opponent, but they can't do anything until the ball's either caught or it hits the ground, and then they could run. So it's different. It's different. And what they think is, they think the amount of returns are going to go up, and they also believe that the big plays will go up, and they think injuries will stay at a low because, again, you're going to have lesser collisions because you can't take that running start. So things are changed here. And Mike, they did that study. That they looked at the UFL's way that they did this, the way that they changed the kickoff, and they liked it. But they think because better coaching, better players, it's going to be far superior here. And they're really bullish on it. But we should tell you, though, Mike, before we move on, it's only going to be for one season. Then they're going to review it.
Well, I think it'll be a success, Adam, just because of the standpoint that it's gotten so stale, right? And I was saying when this talk started the other day, and I understand the player's safety aspect of things, but it's gotten to the point where it's like, I'm almost like they might as well just get rid of it because it felt like that's what they were trying to do. If this is fresh and this is something different from just watching every kick go sailing through that end zone, which is 8 out of 9 kickoffs, Adam, are going through the end zone. It was basically a non-existent play now. So if that brings it back, I'm all for it.
And they are bullish. They're expecting, Mike, this thing. So only 22% of the kicks were returned, which is an historic low. they're thinking it could go up to like the 60% range. So that's huge. And again, they're going to be able to protect the returners because you're not going to have everyone converging immediately. You see guys in the past get tattooed because the guys could take a running start on the coverage team, but so you can no longer do that. So things are going to change here. And we want more scoring, we want more bigger plays. And by the way, this gives more guys jobs because if you only do returns and you're not a running back, and we'll talk about Cordell Patterson in a second, if you're just a returner, the chances in the past of you getting a job were slim. Now you can get it because more kicks are going to be returned.
Well, you just mentioned it there, and I'll bring that up now. It's probably not a coincidence then that a couple hours after this rule comes into effect that Cordell Patterson finds himself a new home.
Yeah, Cordell Patterson's agent, Sean Kiernan, is here. Sean's got players. He also represents some head coaches and actually some personnel people and coaches. But bottom line is he's here, and he got a deal done. Cordell Patterson, formerly of Atlanta, agreed to a 2-year deal with the Steelers. He's obviously reunited with Arthur Smith, which helps. They needed a third running back. But most of all, Mike, on your point, they needed a kickoff returner. They don't have one. And Patterson, who's well into his 30s now, could be that guy, not only be the returner, but also could be their third running back. For a team that is Mike, as you know, they've completely changed up their quarterback room and their offense under the aforementioned Arthur Smith.
They have. One last thing with all this kickoff stuff. There is one side of this, Adam, that also is changing, and that's the onside kick, which now you're going to have to tell the other team when you want an onside kick, which does take away some famous element of surprise onside kicks that we've seen in our life, like Sean Payton in the St. Colts Super Bowl, etc. Those plays are going to be gone now.
Yeah, there is no more surprise onside kick. You're absolutely right. In fact, you remember when the Steelers and Bill Cowher did it against the Cowboys after halftime, and they tried it. So yeah, there's no surprise onside kick. So that's kind of one of the drawbacks of it. But I'm telling you, this play is going to be more exciting. And some of these great returners that we see who don't get a chance anymore, now they're going to be back into play this coming season.
The other one that's caused a lot of talk, Adam, is this hip drop tackle that has now been outlawed. Of course, we've seen players get injured with this sort of tackle, specifically Mark Andrews last year from the Baltimore Ravens. I've obviously seen this has been kind of divided, Adam, on two sides. The offensive players love it. The defensive players hate it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Mike. In the data, the injury rate for this type of technique is very, very high. The league said, and the quote that I got was potentially dangerous tackling technique. They want it out of the game. The defensive players are saying, hey, listen, you're taking something which had always been legal, though it's kind of a new technique. But the league is saying it's not. It's an illegal technique. It's dangerous, and they want it out of the game, and it's out of the game. So this one I thought was going to pass. And it did, and they've now taken that out of the game. And, Mike, it's interesting. There are a lot of rule changes, more than normal here, and very few that were major. But this kickoff rule is great for the fans. It's also going to clean up, they think, concussions because it's going to be less impact. And it's great for jobs because, again, guys who ordinarily would not have jobs, who are just returners, kickoff returners, they're going to have jobs now.
They certainly are. There was a few other things, of course. Trade deadline goes back a week to week 9 now, which will be the first Tuesday in November. You get a challenge back if you just win one challenge now. It used to be you had to win them both. Now you win one challenge. So there are a couple of other things, Adam, that we'll see once the season gets going. Again, other news today in Orlando. The NFL has been very successful on Christmas Day the last couple of years. And even though Christmas Day is falling on a Wednesday this year, Adam, they're going back to it.
Yeah, Mike, this is interesting. Now, they've done obviously very well with these games on holidays and so forth. And we've seen it when it's been on a Saturday. But Christmas is going to happen on Wednesday, but they're going to have 2 games. But here's the thing. Because you got to give guys rest, right? Typically, what you see for a Thursday game is, okay, if the team plays Sunday, they have just a series of walkthroughs. They only get 3 days off and they play Thursday night. Well, they're going to do the same thing here. So they haven't released the schedule yet, but they will by the draft. Those teams that are going to play on Wednesday will play on Saturday, and they're still going to get the 3 days rest. If they travel on Tuesday and play on that Wednesday night. So they get look, the bottom line is these night games, these holiday games are super successful. You've seen it now with streaming. It's huge. You saw what happened in the wild card game, by the way. Unbelievable streaming. The best in NFL history was that wild card game. Who knew? But it was. So look, these games are going to happen, and we're going to have them on Christmas.
And they're also going to stream on Peacock that Eagle opener in Brazil on the Friday night to start the season. So that's going to be, they said today, Adam, or that was rumored about today. I don't know if that's official, but that's going to be streamed as well, that Eagle opener.
Yeah, it is. In fact, that game that's going to be in Brazil, the Eagles have the international rights for South America. So they're going to have it there, and the game will be played against the Packers or the Browns, but the league has not decided yet which team will get it. The rumor's been the Browns. But the bottom line is, look, NFL's international. I remember when I worked for ESPN, someone in the league office said in our lifetime we would have a team overseas, and I was like, there's no way that's going to happen. I can't see it. But they're going to play more and more games, though, overseas, Mike. This is happening. The NFL wants to be super international. Anytime they go to London, we could talk about the quality of the game, but those games sell out, and people will go wherever the NFL is.
Adam, I only have 30 seconds, and this is probably something that you need 30 minutes for, but is everyone in Orlando as excited about J.J. McCarthy as Jim Harbaugh is? Is everyone as excited about
I cannot believe this. Mike, I had personnel people tell me he's been graded by clubs middle, second round. But, Mike, he's going to go in the top 15. You watch.
Top 15? I think he's going to go in the top 5 the way this is going right now.
It's ridiculous.
How much he's getting gassed
We'll talk more about that going forward.
Adam, we'll see you later in the week down in Orlando at the NFL Owners Meetings. Adam Kaplan, our SportsGrid NFL Insider. Thanks, Adam.
When it comes to betting on sports, injuries matter, and Sports Injury Central has you covered all year long with expert injury analysis and injury-based picks for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. Our former pro sports doctors have unmatched experience to analyze every injury so you know the impact of the player, team, and their upcoming matchup. Whether it's articles, podcasts, player insights, or our patented injury scores, Sports Injury Central will help you keep up with your fantasy team and make more informed wagers. So make sure you follow Sports Injury Central and gain an edge at SixScore.com.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament. That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. Joe, BetMGM, they continue to get it done for everybody out there. How about a first bet offer of $1,500? Are you kidding me? What do we got to do? Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your newly created BetMGM Sportsbook account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. That is BetMGM's $1,500 first bet offer. What a week to have it, too. Sweet 16 games. You've got a lot of NBA. You've got some hockey. You got the golf in Houston this week, which we'll talk about tomorrow, of course, on a Golf Wednesday. Scotty Scheffler, Joe, plus 250 favorite for the golf.
Ooh.
Plus 250 for Scotty this week.
Great value. Great value for Scheffler. Great value for Scotty Scheffler. I hear the greens are a little bit fast this week. I'm a little nervous.
Well, I'll give you a full breakdown tonight on the radio show. I'll let you know about the course tonight.
We got to waste the whole segment on that? We got to waste the whole golf segment
57
on that?
We'll do it. We'll do it at 57 for the Houston. We'll give some of the
I can see.
You're out on the golf, Joe. You missed with JoJo Highsmith a few weeks ago, and you've kind of been sour about it. I think it was Skins actually was the week that you kind of turned on the golf because you could have had Skins at like 1,000 to 1 when he was in the lead after the third round. NIT tonight, Joe. Winners of tonight's games will go to the Final Four at the Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indiana. No more Madison Square Garden. Who will be there? Georgia visits Ohio State tonight in Columbus, minus 8.5 for the Buckeyes. And then Cincinnati visits Indiana State. And the big kid, Robbie Avila, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Joe, minus 3.5 for the Sycamores in that game.
Yeah, I'm going to take both dogs. How about that? Because I know everybody's back in this Avila. They want to see Indiana State get there, and they might, but I don't think they cover the 3.5. Bearcats were atrocious in the regular season before they knocked off Kansas in the tournament, right? The Big 12 tournament. And how about Georgia? Georgia, what? They didn't win a game, I don't think, in February until they hit their tournament. Yeah. Then they beat Missouri, and now they're playing with a little house money. So give me both dogs. Dogs will be barking.
Tomorrow night, we'll have the other two quarters, which are UNLV Seton Hall and VCU Utah. So we'll do that tomorrow here on Coast to Coast. How about NBA now, Joe? A few things from last night. There's only 4 games tonight in the NBA, but I wanted to give you a couple of these. The Knicks beat the Pistons 124-99. Joe, the Knicks shot 46 threes as a team last night in that win, and Dante DiVincenzo set a Knicks single-game record with 11 of those threes. So, Joe, how do you think Detroit Piston head coach Monty Williams was feeling afterwards when he was asked about DiVincenzo hitting all those threes? Let's find out.
I know it's hard not to bring up the performance that Dante DiVincenzo just had, just when he gets hot.
I don't care about their team at all. I could care less. Those guys... the way they got those threes, I don't want to be a part of that story.
How about a little defense, Monty? How about a little defense?
They actually went to the Knick guys in the locker room, Joe, and said, Monty said this, and Josh Hart was like, why don't you tell him to tell his guys to guard us better? I said, he's right. Listen, Joe, I know he's had a long year, 12-60 or whatever their record is. Calm down. Honestly, like you said, how about knock the guy over once in a while then, Joe? How about knock DiVincenzo over instead of giving him 20 looks at
First of all, I know the Knicks shot 46 threes. And 3 weeks ago when I was in the stands when they played that gutless game against the 76ers, they had 46 points or 60 points. They shot again, I think 53s and shot 21%. So let's pump the brakes on the good old Knicks, okay? What I can't stand is everything is a three ball now. You got point guards driving the lane, wide open layup. They kick the ball out for the three. How about you just make a basket and play some defense? Get off your ass and have a little bit of pride. I mean, these guys are ridiculous now. I mean, if I'm on the court and DiVincenzo has 9 threes, there's no way I'm letting him get 10 and showboat down the court. I mean, come on now. I mean, ridiculous. No pride for these guys. None. And how about this? How many of the Pistons did they switch jerseys with Dante? Hey, can I get your jersey for banging down 11 threes? This is the state of the game now. You want to swap jerseys?
Joe, I knew you'd be hot about that, Joe. 46 points the night that Joe goes. The Knicks score could barely put the ball in the hole the night Joe goes to the Knicks game. The Rockets beat the Blazers. They've won 9 in a row, Joe, and they're only a half game back of Golden State for that last spot in the play-in tournament in the West. So the Rockets, here they come. What a gutless effort by the Suns last night. They lost outright to the Spurs without Wembanyama. So the Suns really showed that they care, Joe, coming down the stretch. You can't lose a game like that. I'm sorry.
They're gutless. They're a glass house. I told you. Again, no defense. Durant, Booker, you can have them all in there. You can even have Beal when he's 100% healthy. It doesn't matter. That team plays no defense. That's why they lost to Denver last year. They have no answer, even if they got there, to face off with Joker. You know that. The big man will abuse them.
Joe last night on the radio show wanted to take the Hawks at 28.5 when they were down big against the Celtics. He missed that number. In fact, the Hawks, Joe, won the game outright. 120 to 118. They won the game outright. So what was the money line when it was 28.5?
Carver, I don't even know. It was like 3,200. It was crazy. All I know is that I liked them at 10.5. We were talking. It was 28.5, right? Halftime, you could have gotten them plus 19.5. I knew they were live, too, and I was mad because they dropped 10 points like a rock. I was on a delay on the TV. It was even worse. It was a missed opportunity. Just totally
sounds
missed.
Sounds like, Joe, you got to be better, is what it sounds like. Sounds like you got to lock in a little bit more and make sure that you get the right number next time. That's just unfortunate. You know who did lock in and get the right number? All these guys who were friends with Jonte Porter of the Raptors, Joe. This guy's in a lot of trouble. Under investigation for prop betting irregularities. Some very large tickets were put on this guy. Now, nobody knew who this guy was before yesterday. Some very large tickets were put in on his unders, Joe, for a game. He played 4 minutes, took himself out of the game for some re-aggravated injury. Here's what's going to happen here, Joe. Nobody cares about this guy, so it's probably not going to get the attention that it deserves. But B, the NBA will make an example of this guy, Joe, because nobody knows who he is. And he's going to get the book thrown at him. That's what's going to happen to him.
Yeah, he's going to get smashed over the face with an iron, probably.
As he should, by the way.
But here's the thing. Again, so smart, you're stupid. They took all the unders, and they took all the unders in the same game. I mean, how stupid can you be in regards to that? The threes, the points, the assists, the bounds. I mean, spread it out. How stupid can you actually be that you didn't take one over? I mean, think about that. The guy couldn't, because he's so gutless, he couldn't even make a point. I mean, really.
Bad scene for him, Joe. All right, we have only 4 games in the NBA tonight. Let's start in Miami, where the Warriors are in town to take on the Heat. I just told you the Warriors situation, Joe. Only a half game up on Houston for that final spot. As of right now, the Heat, no Jimmy Butler, out. Jaquez questionable, Caleb Martin questionable, several others out as well. The Warriors are minus 4.5 now, Joe. 217.5 the total.
Do we have the hero in there or no? We got no hero either. Rozier?
There's no hero, Joe. Hero's been out. He's been out for a while.
Not today. What about Rozier? We got nobody?
No Duncan Robinson, no hero, no Love, no Butler.
Let's
looks
go
like
under.
Rozier's playing. Rozier's playing, Joe.
All right, so I'll take the 3-ball on Rozier tonight, but let's take the under and we'll lay it with Golden State. 218.5 was the number? I didn't see it up there.
17.5 is now the number. It's gone down a little bit. So that's what we have for that. Next, the Lakers are in Milwaukee against the Bucks tonight. First game of the TV doubleheader. More guys not playing, Joe. LeBron out for the Lakers tonight. He is not going to play. It looks like D'Angelo Russell is good to go. He had an illness. He's going to play. Anthony Davis is probable. The Bucks have Giannis listed as probable as well. So really LeBron, Joe, the only significant piece out. So the Bucks minus 9.5 now, 232.5 the total.
Carver, the Bucks shouldn't be favored by anybody lately over not by 9.5. I mean, game time, has been atrocious. I'll take the Lakers. I mean, the question is, who's going to step up? Is it going to be AD? Probably. I tell you what, AD might have a good game tonight. I like the Lakers plus the 9.5. I'm going to take a shot.
I just need the Bucks to win, Joe. 10-2, please, over these last 12 games. Get me that 55 wins.
What happened to Doc? He doesn't have all the answers now, does he?
Yeah, he doesn't have. I think it's 9-2, actually. I might be wrong with it because they have 46 wins. I think it's 9-2 that I need him to go. The Thunder are in New Orleans against the Pelicans tonight. Thunder minus 1.5, 233.5, Joe, to total. Big game for both teams. A lot of seeding here. Big, important game.
I'm going to go with the Thunder. I think they're a little bit more complete. They have better scoring. And at the end of the day, give me the over 225.5, 226 in that area. But I like OKC tonight.
And finally, Joe, second leg of the TV doubleheader is in Sacramento, where the Mavericks and the Kings get together. Mavs have been hot, Joe. They've won 8 out of 9. I know Luka didn't get you. I think he only had 28 last night, right, Joe, or 27. He didn't get to 30.
His number was 33.5.
He didn't get to that. He's listed as questionable, but this is a very important game. Both games, like 6th and 7th place in the Western Conference right now. Mavs getting 2.5, 232.5 the total. I'm on the Mavs tonight, Joe. The Kings have been very suspect in the second night of these back-to-backs. I'm taking the Mavericks.
Yeah, I'm on the other side. I told you last night I like Sacramento.
You really are.
I'm not.
You're
no,
this is personal.
No, I have no confidence.
You're going after Luka because he didn't get you the points last night. I hope he drops 45 on you tonight now. I hope Luka has the game of his life tonight.
Oh, really? All right. You know what? I'm going to open the line now. Sacramento. They're going to crush them.
Crush them. All right, there you go. I set the bear trap and you walked into it. I set the bear trap and you came rolling in.
That'll be on my card tonight.
You wanted me to play Luka points last night? I'm going to play him tonight. 40 plus, 35, 40. Alt it. Let's go, Joe.
Not right what you do.
There you go. 4 games in the NBA. All right, Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. SportsGrid Radio. We will come back, wrap this puppy up on the grid right after this.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament. That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
SDSU minus 7.5, and then Washington State will take on Drake in the 7-10. Wazoo a 1.5 favorite. So we got two close ones here in terms of the spread.
State was one of the top 30 teams in the net rankings, so I think that Drake might be a little motivated to prove that, hey, our conference should have had two teams in this tournament. Indiana State didn't make it, but we'll represent pretty well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have you with us. All right, Joe, before we get out of here, there is hockey tonight. There's a lot of hockey games. I think there's 12 of them, actually. Good one. The Bruins into Sunrise against the Panthers tonight, Joe. Very good game. Panthers minus 130 at home, a flat 6 total. The Flyers are at the Garden against the Rangers. Heavy lumber there. Carolina's in Pittsburgh. Jake Gensel returns there. Detroit is in Washington against the Caps. I like the over 6, Joe, in the Red Wing Capital game.
I like the over 6 in Carolina and Pittsburgh. I'm going to take a shot tonight. That's the one that just caught my eye. I know typically Carolina to the under, but something tells me playing the Penguins on the road, that game could break out, Carver.
It could. The Devils are in Toronto against the Maple Leafs tonight. Vegas is in Nashville. That's a big game. Vegas got the overtime win in St. Louis last night. Edmonton in Winnipeg. Calgary into Chicago against the Blackhawks. I'm going to lay the puck line tonight, Joe, with Nashville, believe it or not, against Vegas, the tired legs on the second night of a back-to-back.
Well, give me New Jersey plus the 120, Carver. How about that? And I will say this. Wow. How about Edmonton? Draisaitl, a little McDavid tonight? What do you want to do?
I like Winnipeg, actually, tonight. I like Winnipeg at home against Edmonton. Montreal's in Colorado. Columbus is in Arizona at the College Rink. Anaheim is in Seattle, and Dallas is at the Shark Tank. Joe, -4 Bills on the road for the Stars. They played a crazy game there last time. Give me the over 6.5 in that one. Joe, I will see you tonight. Carver and Lisi, 8 p.m. East on SportsGrid Radio. We will go through all of these games and more. We'll be back here tomorrow as well, Joe. A Golf Wednesday on C2C, and we'll go through all the Sweet 16 games. And baseball starts on Thursday, too, so we have a lot to do with that. Great job by Mafia Luke and the crew. Game Time Decisions is next. Ferrall, Coast to Coast. Cash some tickets. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.